Well, quite a lot is happening on the continent, specifically in Ghana, and News Central Television has been covering what is going on in that beautiful democracy in West Africa. The thing here is that a lot of people have been asking questions as to what exactly is happening 7 months after President Nana Akufo-Addo came on the saddle. Well, the opposition government is also not lenting, off on this, but the sore point here is the man at the center of this freedom, as they would want to put it, a freedom fighter called Ibrahim Kaka Mohammed, who was killed at the start of this particular protest. Well, today is our focus in Ghana, and News Central Television has been covering what exactly is happening, because Ghana, for many Africans, represent a fantastic democracy. Why is this happening in Ghana? I'll be speaking with my colleague pretty much later. Welcome to Village Square Africa. I'm Sulaiman Lede. And we started actually this conversation in the week, speaking with some analysts, especially those from the opposition NDC, why Nana Akufo-Addo is being seen as someone who's failed in just 7 months after he came getting his re-election ticket. But for many Ghanaians, as well as those who are also pushing this fight and this battle on the social media, they think this is the time for the country to fix itself, and they want the president to lead that. It was only yesterday that pretty much some of them gathered at the parliament to put a petition before the government. They were not too excited that Nana Akufo-Addo, the president, wasn't there personally to take or rather to receive this petition. But let me quickly join my colleague Bennett and Joseph, who's right there in Ghana. Bennett, good thing that you're still there. Tell us how situation has been in Ghana. It's almost 48 hours since these protests rocked this beautiful West African country.
Thank you so much for having me on the Village Square Africa, Sulaiman. And I must tell you that it was a very huge disappointment for the NDC yesterday when they were not received by the president himself, Nana Akufo-Addo, when they submitted their petition to Parliament. Rather, they were received by the Deputy Chief of Staff in the person of Emmanuel Bosman. In the petition, they made reference to issues of insecurity, poor infrastructure, unemployment among the Ghanaian youth. But they also talked about the killing of activists and freedom fighters in the country. And like you rightly mentioned in the introduction of your show, bringing Kaka Ibrahim into context, it was a very huge event that shook the very foundations of Ghana, because the death of Ibrahim for so many Ghanaians meant that the Nana Akufo-led government is not tolerant of the opposition and has a way of clamping down on the rights of Ghanaians to express displeasure over political and economic concerns. But the NPP told me while I was on ground at the protest yesterday that they believe that these protests are politically motivated. By the way, the NPP is the ruling party which Nana Akufo-Addo belongs to. And they tell me that all of these protests rocking the country are politically motivated. They believe that Nana Akufo-Addo has done very well for the country amidst the challenges of COVID-19. But those were not the sentiments I got on ground, especially amongst the locals. For instance, most of the local drivers who took me around in town told me that they preferred Ghana under the administration of John Mahama rather than what they are experiencing right now under Nana Akufo-Addo. They said Nana Akufo-Addo came into power with a lot of promises, and they were optimistic that Ghana was going to move forward. But it will appear as though all of those expectations have not been met by the current administration, and that's a very huge disappointment for a lot of Ghanaians.
Well, before I let you go, Bennett, quickly tell us the conduct of the Ghana police, because that was the biggest fear being nursed by Ghanaians and Africans. Keep in mind, this is only coming just after Nigeria also experienced the EndSARS protest. How has it been so far? Have we been able to see a civil Ghana police or an unruly Ghana police?
Let me start from the perspective of the hashtag Fix the Country movement. They tell me that the only reason why the police were civil at the NDC protest yesterday is only because the NDC also forms the majority of the current administration. The NDC has about 137 members in parliament, and they believe that they also wield a lot of control over state infrastructure and parastatals. So they believe that the police were civil yesterday because it had to do with the major opposition party in Ghana. But they feel that when it comes to ordinary protesters and individuals, just like what you have had in the EndSARS process, that the police have a way of cutting down on the human rights of Ghanaians to protest. But what I experienced on ground yesterday was that, in all honesty, I saw a civil Ghanaian police force. I was able to speak to some of those police officers myself, who told me that they are pleased with the conduct of the protesters. But like I said, the hashtag Fix the Country movement believes that the NDC March for Justice protest has a lot of political coloration to it, and they believe that this is all being scripted, that the real protest in Ghana will happen on the 4th of August, the new date they have fixed for their Fix the Country protest. But we're not sure if that protest is going to happen, because the Fix the Country protest has been suspended twice. First was on the 9th of May and second on the 3rd of July, with the police issues of COVID-19. So we are not sure the August 4 protest will hold, but the Fix the Country protesters are optimistic that it will happen. But with what I saw yesterday, the police put themselves in order. But the sentiment of the Ghanaians about the Ghanaian police is not so much to write home about.
Many thanks for speaking with me, Bennett Joseph. My colleague there, Bennett Joseph, who's been in Ghana covering the protest in that West African nation. Still to come here on VSA, I'll be speaking with a member of the Ghana main opposition party, as well as some Ghanaians to express their views on what exactly is happening in Ghana at the moment. Stay with us. Nana Akufo-Addo's government has attracted some of the world's best and biggest companies, and it is a growing economic and financial sector hub on the continent. But in recent months, all of these seem to have suffered a dip and a sad turnaround. Now, currently, Ghana's unemployment rate is in the region of 5%, which is probably still one of the lowest in Africa. However, there is a rise in insecurity on the part of the security operators' treatment of Ghanaians. Inadequate job provision, healthcare improvement, poor road infrastructure, rising costs of petrol, recent power outages, and more are some of the issues contributing to Ghanaians' recent discontent. Now, new taxes and high cost of living has also seen locals tagging the government as a plutocratic one, where the rich thrive and the poor are left in a state of need. Now, the response to this dissatisfaction has been protest, which was most recently from the opposition, now the National Democratic Congress, NDC. Now, joining me now to continue a look on these happenings in Ghana is Hadi Yakubu, Fighter General, Economic Fighters League, Ghana, and of course, Kojo Boafo, leading member of the NDC. Good to see you again, Kojo. Thank you for your time, and thank you very much, Yakubu.
My brother.
Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Let me start with Yakubu. You know, we've been following this, and so far, a lot of Africans are worried because they still insist that if it all works for good for Ghana, it means the good for the continent. Excuse me. So what's the state of Ghana at the moment today? Why are citizens so unhappy? Yakubu.
Well, thank you very much. And let me say greetings to my brothers and sisters in Nigeria. It is a delight to be in touch with you. I appreciate this Pan-African meeting and engagement. If I was to define the state of Ghana, I would say it is like a household that has been left a very big investment, inheritance for the elders of the household to grow that inheritance and use it to take care of the young and people, those who are still growing. And these people who have taken this inheritance and have been charged with the responsibility of making sure that the inheritance is used for the betterment of the household, have rather over the years used that inheritance to buy themselves luxurious houses, luxurious cars, very fashionable dresses, expensive shoes and watches, whilst the children of the household are hungry and are dying of thirst. That is the state of Ghana.
You know, before I go to Kojo, I still want to stay with you for a bit, Yakubu. You know, there's a mix, you know, a potpourri of issues here. It was only recently I had conversation with Kojo, and that is why we're here again, looking at the economy, looking at the health sector, and looking at quite a number of issues. But this also to you, Yakubu, there's a name that has, you know, that stood out in this whole process, and perhaps we should start talking about the death of Ibrahim Kaka. How has the death of this young Ghanaian and the murder in Ejura awakened the consciousness of this movement by Ghanaians?
Well, the murder of Kaka and the two others in Ejura, and injuring of many others, one of whom, called Muhammad Awal, 16 years old, lost his leg because it had to be amputated 2 days ago. These murders are very reprehensible. They are very obnoxious. They are things that nobody should condone in any civilized society. Kaka was somebody who did not have a lot of means. He wasn't a very prominent member of society. He wasn't a very rich person. He wasn't a very powerful person. He wasn't even a very popular politician in the country. He was mainly just an active citizen who was making sure that the problems facing his community, Ejura, were highlighted and given the awareness that it deserved. That at least if he could not afford to make sure that those things were made right, if he did not have the power to right the wrongs in the society, if he did not have the means to bring relief to his people, at least he can highlight those things to the general public and call for them to be done. Kaka was attacked and killed. We put respect on his name, not because he was, as I said, a prominent or any sort of rich person in society, but because he prioritized the lives of his community, the life of the people in his community over his own. Now, the death of Kaka has further shown that the system that is oppressing us in Ghana is not going to stop. That system is the same system oppressing our brothers and sisters in Nigeria. It is the same system that is oppressing our brothers and sisters in Uganda. It is the same system oppressing our brothers and sisters in Tunisia, in Mozambique, in Eswatini, in Mali, in Guinea-Bissau, everywhere on the African continent. And we remember very clearly what NSAS represents for our brothers and sisters in Nigeria. These are the kinds of systems that have been put in place in these so-called African countries that are nothing but oppressive systems maintained by a small elite who do not want to be questioned and who do not want to be held to account. The death of Kaka has further shown the young people of this country, Ghana, that we are not going to change this country by moral switch. We're going to change this country by unity of purpose, coming together as young people to drive the action on the ground and make sure that we are not taken for granted. Our generation is the generation that is the most cheated generation, that people who have divided themselves between MPP and NDC are playing chess game with the lives of people.
I'll come back to you. Apologies, Yakubu, Yakubu, allow me button here. Yakubu, just allow me button here quickly. I'll come back to you so that we can stretch this. But quickly, let me bring in Kojo. And Kojo, thank you for your time and patience. Quickly here, a lot of people started looking at the activities of the NDC, especially around West Africa. They think that for some reason, the NDC seemed to be the most vocal and the most active opposition in the west of Africa. Perhaps being a leading member, take us through some of these things that your party has been able to highlight, making it a very strong opposition looking at the activities of the incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo.
Well, the NDC is arguably the largest party in Ghana. I mean, never mind that we lost elections in 2016, but we also happen to have governed this country in spurts during the fourth Republican Constitution. And so we have a documented experience being in government. What we are simply doing is holding this president's feet to the fire and highlighting the promises that he made to win power in the 2016 election. An election which I might add, he won from an incumbent president. Power was transferred over to him peacefully, and we left a peaceful country for him to manage. That is not where we are right now. We left a country whose economy was relatively buoyant. That is not where we are right now. I'll give you an example. This year, just this year, the government is planning to borrow over $5 billion on the European markets, Eurobonds. They are going to use a vast chunk of it to refinance domestic debt, pay interest on foreign debts, and use the rest for consumption. Consumption, when I say consumption, I mean things like paying for a free senior high school program, which means at the end of it all, our debt to GDP ratio, which is mounting, is expected to hit 81% by the end of 2021. This government has borrowed over $25 billion since 2017. They came to power and met less than half of that as a total debt burden for this country. They have borrowed over $25 billion. And you know what? The finance minister and the deputy finance minister have private companies that are the bond market specialists, as they call themselves, for the debt we buy, which means when we buy debt, they make a profit. That is the state of play of our economy right now. And like the other gentleman said, I forget his name, pardon me, this country has now become like, in the Bible, the parable of the talents. You were given an endowment by your departed father, and you have just proceeded to squander it to the extent that the up and coming and the yet unborn are in a serious danger of not having anything left by the time they grow up. That is the state of play. I haven't even gotten to the state of our security, and that is what we are talking about. The murder of Kaka, murder of Ahmed Swale, the 9 people who were shot dead over the course of the last the 2016 election, something that is unprecedented in the history of this country.
I'll allow you go. I'll allow you come back to the issue of security. But quickly here, I picked something from you when you started in your opening. You made reference to the 2016 election. But you seem to, ignore the 2020 election. When you say they won, the incumbent won the 2016 election, is that indicative of your denial that your party didn't lose the 2020 election?
Well, the 2020 election was contentious, to be honest. But the courts have ruled that the President Akufo-Addo won, and so we accept it. We are, like you have said and elucidated so eloquently, Ghanaians believe in democracy. So we accept what the court said. We don't agree with it, but we accept it. But the reason why I keep highlighting the 2060 election or talking about the 2060 election is because to assess the administration, the current MPP administration, you cannot ignore the 4 years since 2017. So that is, it is not an attempt to trash the 2020 election in any way, shape, or form. We don't accept the ruling of the courts. We don't agree with the ruling of the courts, but we accept the verdict of the courts. That is what democracy is about. We have our judicial system to what's the word I'm looking for? To resolve disputes, so to speak. So we accept it, but we don't agree with it because we know many things happened during the election that were untoward. But that's not the main premise of those statements I made. I'm saying that you have to look at the government in totality.
So in trying to look at the government in totality, which you already started doing now, again, sorry, apologies for butting in here, just trying to see how much we can cover before the end of the show. You made reference to security, and I'm asking, do you see any improvement from the government of the NDC to what the NPP is doing so far, more like a comparison between when your party was in charge and now?
Well, when my party was in charge, we were not shooting innocent protesters in the back. There was no election that was held under the NDC where children were killed. In the 2020 election, a 14-year-old girl was shot dead for simply being at an observation post. A 22-year-old boy, Abbas Nuruddin, was shot dead at Ablekuma Central. So many people died in Techiman South. They were shot dead, intentionally shot dead by security forces. Up to today, we have not had any resolution of any of those things. In fact, the government keep telling us that only 8 people died. Well, I say that even if one person died in the pursuit of democracy, it is one person too much. And if anybody does die, the least that we can do is to look for the perpetrators and find out why they did what they did and what happened. We've gone as far as finding out that certain people were even shot by operatives of the Flagstaff House who had hidden weapons. one person has actually been identified and arrested, and as we speak now, nothing has happened. So those are the things that Ghanaians are worried about. We've gotten to the state, my brother, where armed robberies, just a few weeks ago, a policeman was shot in the head transporting money in a bullion van. It hasn't just happened once. The frequency and the recurrence of what is going on is what is making many citizens alarmed. If you know anything about Ghana, or if you know any Ghanaians, they will tell you that these things are not things that we are used to. In Ghana, you can get out in the middle of the night anytime you want to go anywhere, and the presumption is that we are mostly law-abiding. I'm not saying there's no crime here. There's no country in which there's no crime. But I'm saying that the regularity and the fluidity with which these things are happening is becoming a problem. We are in a country where armed thugs on a by-election day were seen in a police car going to a polling station and beating up a member of parliament. A commission was held. The people were identified that day. They were in a police car, and I repeat, armed thugs in a police car. The police commander at the scene said he didn't know who they were. When the government white paper made up of representatives of the government itself, people who are aligned to the government, wrote a white paper and asked that the people involved be prosecuted and some of the so-called officers be dealt with, the government wrote back in its response and said that the person who beat up the member of parliament was provoked. And this is a guy who admitted on the stand that he had only had 3 weeks training before he became a security officer. And let me
bring in Yakubu, Hadi Yakubu. Hadi Yakubu, again, you know, you've heard Kojo, a member of a leading member of the opposition, and quite a number of things he's raised. And as a freedom fighter, perhaps let's ask you a bit of a political, you know, question, so to speak. Do you think that the election of Akufo-Addo is a true reflection of the desire of Ghanaians, or was it a case of settling for the available in the absence of the desired at that time? Yakubu. Yakubu, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry. I was saying that maybe this is a question Uncle Chumbuafo would be best pleased to answer, because that it has been a political partisan.
That was why, Yakubu. That was why I said. That was why I said for a bit. Let me give you. Let me throw some political questions. I'll come back to Kojo, but this is to you.
Exactly. Okay, that's good. That's correct. But you see what happened in the 2020 elections? We advocated for a no vote. We advocated that Ghanaians should boycott the elections. Definitely no viable option.
I think there's a glitch because probably because you're in transit, Yakubu. If you can get to a safe place, perhaps maybe
that you could deliver.
Well, if you can get to a safe place, I think it would be better for us to just have that conversation, Yakubu. Because
hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you because you're in transit, so we're having a glitch off and on connection to you.
Yes, I can see that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, so I was saying that in the 2020 elections, we in the Economic Fighters League advocated for a boycott of the elections, because I'm sure that Uncle Chumbuafo would tell you all the things that they see they have done better than the NPP. And the NPP, on the other hand, would also tell you all the things that they think they have done better than the NDC. From where we sit, we see a country that is being played in our local parlance. We call something chaskeli, between two political parties that maintain a certain form of capture by a small elite at the top who only maintain a facade of democracy, where young people are unable to reach their own potential. People finish schools, and even getting jobs is a problem. Now, it's getting worse, if you ask me, by the day. And the thing is, if you have a wound and you are not treating it, it gets worse by the day. And that's exactly what we are seeing. All the things that people were complaining about when the NDC was in power has actually got worse. You can talk about the corruption, you can talk about the lawlessness, you can talk about the oppression by security forces, and all of those things, they keep getting worse. And for those of us who are not affiliated with political parties, we are frankly just tired about every day seeking self-praise that rarely speak to the general well-being of the populace. So in as much as we will give it to them as their constitutional right to engage in the political discussions about who has done what and who has not done what, and about whether NPP and NDC has done better on the airwaves and on the TV screens. We, on the other hand, we want to always point out that it is important to take a step back and relook at the whole architecture of the state. We cannot have a country where few people's lives are privileged. I don't know if you have heard, but very recently it has come to light.
Well, I think I lost you for a bit there, but we'll come back to you, Hadi Yakubu, so that we can expatiate more, especially looking at the social media, which is one tool that the young people in Ghana have been using. Let me quickly go back to Kojo. Kojo, listening to Yakubu, one of the key things many Africans are asking today is the role of its youth in governance, in national development. What's the stance of the NDC as a viable, opposition in, bringing the youth on board in the development of Ghana?
Track record, and I know Hadi brings this up and says the NDC and the MPP are always going to trade counter accusations about what we've done wrong and what we've done right. Unfortunately, it's the record that we have it's only the record we have that we can play. The NDC has, as a social democratic party, instituted several initiatives to better the education of the young people in this country. For example, between the Mills and Mahama administrations, 8 different universities were established in Ghana. 4 of them were medical schools. Several nurses training, several teacher training. We have ventured into what we call COTVET, which is the technical training of young people into technical fields, mainly to aid with the oil sector. So a lot of that has been done. We also had a policy where in our constitution, we have what we say that everybody has a right to an education. So we were adopting not a minimalistic approach, but a gradual approach to educating everybody to at least high school level. This president, on his promises before he became president, said that everybody was going to get free SHS, free senior high school. It's something that Ghanaians one of the reasons why Ghanaians voted for him. And what they have found out is that what it has done is it has affected the quality of education in Ghana because there is an oversubscription. We were not prepared for what was coming. As we speak today, he borrows money and pays interest on a yearly basis to pay that particular big ticket item. So what was the rush in doing that? We had adopted a process of building the schools, making sure the infrastructure was ready before we went into those kinds of ventures, because we accepted that some amount of damage had been done over the preceding years and it needed to be resolved, but it needed to be resolved as a process and not as an event. He came, and because he wanted to get elected by any means necessary, instituted something they were not prepared for. And today, his own finance minister and his own minister of education are questioning whether that particular program is viable. So in terms, we could go on, and I could give you several initiatives that the NDC has policy initiative the NDC has put down and has implemented. The issue at stake right now in Ghana is that we have serious economic issues. Basically, my brother, our ends are not meeting. And like Hadi said, everything that this president complained about on the wings of which he was elected has gotten worse. And that's just the story.
We'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll see how we can stretch this more like see if your party is having what is called a shadow government, so that we can start looking at some of the, prescriptions to some of these problems in Ghana. That will be when we return. Join us again. Ghanaians are currently calling for a revision of the 1992 Constitution and are seeking better and clearer explanations. Well, Ghana, one of the two highest producers of cocoa in the world, is also the highest producer of gold in Africa. Now, citizens believe these riches are not within the reach of locals nor felt by the Ghanaian masses. At the moment for Ghanaians, it's all about finding the right fix. And of course, we still have with us Kojo Boafo, a leading member of the NDC, who's been unpacking some developments. By the way, News Central has been trying to reach out to the government of Ghana to react to some of these things. As soon as that works, they will be here speaking to Africa. Now, Kojo, if you had friends in other African countries, some of the key things they always say about your country is its fine democracy. You made mention of its 2016 election. One of the most amazing things was how an incumbent, your party, left power after the pronouncement of that result. Now it looks like almost everything is falling apart, going by the protest and comments from young Ghanaians and opposition like yourself. It brings us to how Ghana can be fixed. It's a big question, which as an opposition, you must have a recipe for fixing Ghana.
Well, we should have a recipe for fixing Ghana because we have been in government before. Hadi told you that everything, and I thought that encapsulated everything that we are talking about. That everything that was being complained about prior to the 2016 election has gotten worse. Corruption, my brother, corruption is at amazing levels in this country. This country has become a kakistocracy and a kleptocracy. There are all kinds of amazing things that are going on that one would never have thought could have gone on in the government of President Akufo-Addo, given what he said he was going to do when he won power. Well, before he won power. I'll give you an example. In this government, the president's finance minister is his first cousin. His works and housing, his roads minister is his first cousin. His executive secretary is his first cousin. There are other members who are in instrumental positions in this country who are direct relatives of the president. I haven't even got into the friends. I mean direct relatives. What that does is it breeds a culture of impunity. They do whatever they want, wherever they want, do whatever they want. Recently, I'm sure you must have heard that the president rented a state-of-the-art Boeing Airbus Neojet in total disregard for the presidential jet, which was functioning, which has been refurbished, and we paid over $500,000 for that privilege, for renting a jet for the president for 17 days. A member of parliament has tabled an urgent question in parliament. The finance minister came to parliament and he didn't answer the question. He said he wanted more time. As we speak, it hasn't happened. And it's a constitutional responsibility. It is enshrined in the orders of parliament that parliamentarians may ask urgent questions of ministers of the executive, and they have to come and answer the question. As we speak, that question has not been answered because the finance ministry are aware that if Ghanaians know the real figures involved in the hiring of that luxury jet for the president, there will be an uproar. And it is our belief, and we know for sure that on that particular trip, the presidential jet itself accompanied the president's rented jet, basically as a convoy of sorts. And when the defense minister was asked about it, he came to parliament and said, well, the presidential jet we have doesn't even have a shower. And the president needs to shower before he gets down on the ground. This is documented. It's in the Hansard of parliament. So some of the things that are happening are mind-boggling.
Would it be safe, sorry to cut you again, would it be safe to say, well, Ghana isn't actually in dire straits economically speaking? Because listening to you, many Africans will say, wait a minute, did he just say a convoy of airplanes? Because one is hired and there's another one, which is the original one owned by the Ghanaian government, that is also, a part of that fleet when the president moves.
Well, what we are surprised about is that it is not as if we are, excuse me to say, we are Qatar or we are Saudi Arabia, where we can afford to do, or even Nigeria, where we can afford to do what we want because we have we are selling 2 million barrels of oil a day. That is what is befuddling many Ghanaians, because basic things you spoke about, and I didn't see it. I didn't say it. You said it, that we are having issues with power. As I speak to you today, my power in my house has been cut off 3 times already. And when these power outages happen on and off, which we call doomsaw, which in our local language means on and off, what happens? It kills your appliances. We barely have water flowing through anybody's taps for 2 or 3 days continuously without a break. So what is befuddling us is, why are all these things, who finds the money for all these things, when the ordinary things that need to be financed, as far as we are concerned, our roads, our hospitals, our health issues, our policemen and women, Why is this going remiss? Whilst all these luxuries are going on, our president rides in a fleet of Maybachs. Read my lips. I said Maybachs, a fleet of Maybachs. You know, and I'm sure you know that the Mercedes Maybach is the most expensive vehicle in the inventory of Mercedes Stuttgart. Our president rides in a fleet of Maybach. So who is the one who is doing these things? What we know, though, is that in the budget of 2020, the monies that were sent to the presidency to be expended by the presidency was 4 to 5 times what it was under President Mahama.
And so what's the role, if I may also come in here, what's the role of the parliament? Because I see your members also in the parliament, so there must be some form of checks on the executive arm.
Well, I hate to say it, but that's theory. I hate to say it, and there you are right in indicting the NDC's members of parliament, because that is the theory. In practice, we don't see it. In practice, we don't see it, and the NDC parliamentary party must back up its game. That goes without saying, and anybody who knows me knows I shoot straight. So if it's about my party, if it's a shortcoming on our part, I will tell you. Because, for example, after the last elections, the president repeated over 90% of the ministers he had in the previous government, and we didn't do a good enough job of scrutinizing their record. Most of them just simply sailed through and became ministers yet again to continue what it was they were doing. And that was a failing on our part. Absolutely.
And you know, Ghana is a democracy, and there must be some, talking and listening. How can your party make the government listen and act?
Well, one of the things that we have done, well, for example, what happened yesterday? Hitherto yesterday, they made sure that they used COVID as an excuse to stop people from expressing dissent, manifesting their dissent. The Fix the Country people went to court. We have also been in court, and the judiciary has ruled that they have no right to do that, especially given the fact that when it comes to funerals of the ruling government's people, they attend all the funerals without a care in the world, and then they say we cannot manifest our dissent through peaceful protestations. So what happened yesterday is an example of what works in Ghana. We are not saying that everything is lost in Ghana. What we are saying is that the present circumstances under which we are living is dire, and we should do something about it. We are doing something about it, and we are hoping that by the next time the next election comes around, Ghanaians will make a finalistic determination on this government and make sure that Akufo-Addo departs, because he's constitutionally barred anyway from standing election in 2024, and that he departs with all his minions.
Is your party getting more members as it is now that the call against the government of Akufo-Addo is getting louder? Has that also translated into more gains in your membership?
Well, in 2016, we lost the elections with a whopping 63-seat deficit in parliament. Today, we are even Steven in parliament. So that answers your question. The NDC clawed back 33 seats at the last election. That's why I was saying that we believe that all did not go well in the election. And let me just give you a little caveat. In the preceding years, in 2018, by a very fantastic method, the government managed to remove the electoral commissioner for incompetence. The excuse they gave was that she was incompetent. This is a position which the constitution of this country protects the occupant of the electoral commission as its chairperson, like it protects judges, it protects the governor of the Bank of Ghana. this government found a way of removing her by making all kinds of frivolous and false accusations against her, setting up a banana, what I call a banana process against her, procedure against her, and removing her, replacing her with somebody that they could malleate. And that is exactly what happened. So there are a plethora of issues that we are complaining about that are not working. But for the very things that are not working, we as a country acknowledge that we have a few tweaks we need to make to our constitution. And there's been a constitution review process that has been in the work for a very long time. Where they have gotten to, I'm not sure, because I don't have the competencies to talk about that. But the constitutional review process is in motion. We don't know what will happen at the end of all that. But for everything that has not worked, a lot is working. We in Ghana are insistent that our government will be accountable to us. And if the government is not accountable to us, we will continue to ask questions. We will not allow anybody to kill us in the name of any democracy. We are going to continue to ask the questions, and hopefully the answers will be given. The Ghanaian people have a plebiscite at the end of every 4 years. That plebiscite is designed to make the people speak their will and their intentions. I think that we are on a path, a glide path, to ensuring that those questions are accounted for come 2024.
I think it's a fine place for us to leave it here. Always a delight speaking with you, Kojo Boafo, and thank you, Hadi Yakubu, Fighter General. We lost that connection, so we couldn't end that show with Yakubu, the Fighter General, Economic Fighters League of Ghana. Once again, thank you, Kojo. We hope Ghana gets better and the government listens to the call of the people. It's high time. Well, thanks for joining me, and our viewers out there on the continent. Stay good and stay safe. I'm out.